Blake, if you were on national television, what would it be for?
Toby, do you know how many times I've applied to be on the show Survivor?
Welcome to the Church Gear Podcast, where we pull the tech out of the booth and onto the stage to share the most outlandish stories and hidden wisdom from the tech trenches. And now, here are your hosts.
I'm your host, Blake Hodges, a man who is still waiting for a callback from my TV dad, Jeff Probst, and I'm here with my co-host who is still trying to convince me to do the Amazing Race with him, Toby Walters.
You and I had the Amazing Race together. I'm trying to think about the results of that. We'd have fun.
It'd be a great first episode. Like, we would be the joke of the first episode, and then we'd go out.
One of us would die on the first challenge.
Well, for sure. It would be you going, it'll be fine, and you charge it out, and then I'd be like, no, Toby, and then I would die trying to save you.
I jump out of the plane and forgot my parachute, you know?
That would be so epic. I'm trying to dive down Mission Impossible style to save you.
But your body is so big that the wind resistance just keeps you...
No. I'm pretty sure weight times force times mass makes speed. So I would catch up to you because I'm fatter than you.
If you have that right, I'd be shocked.
Force times weight equals speed.
It's so funny to watch that little hamster in your head. Like, he is just, clawing at that wheel like a madman.
Toby, would you believe me if the night before my physical science final in college, I went to study. I'd been set up for 30 minutes, and then Jeremy texted me and said, "You want to play Battlefront Online?" And I really think they passed me out of sympathy.
Yeah. Or just to get rid of you.
That too.
Yeah. So I've never been on national television. I've been on local TV.
For what?
Like just random little news things.
Oh.
My band played on the Fox Morning Show in Austin one time.
Pretty cool.
That's kind of cool. And as a kid, my fifth grade class was featured on another like local news program for my class growing up did an exercise program. We ran 3 miles every day in school in fifth grade.
Wow. That's pretty hardcore.
Yeah. Our teacher was like, he called it the running program. I mean, not a clever name, but it kind of got some notoriety around town. But, that was the healthiest I've ever been in my life.
Was this optional or was this like everyone in your class had to?
Everyone had to. You don't have to sign up for that class. But when you sign up for that class, you know what you're getting yourself into.
Fascinating. Kind of like I knew what I was signing up for when I took this job here.
And I had no idea
what you were getting into.
So I was thinking, depending on when this episode's coming out, a lot of people watch the inauguration, and I've never seen our community light up so much on social media talking about a whoopsie moment. So Blake, I don't know if you saw it, but apparently the backing tracks for Carrie Underwood just didn't come in, and she just sort of stood there waiting for the backing tracks to start, and then eventually was such a professional that she was like, all right, I guess I'm taking this one on my own.
How did she do, like on her own?
So my wife watched a lot of the inauguration, and I told her, okay, I've heard about this moment. Let me know when you find it. And she never found it. I saw Carrie sing, and maybe I saw it. I saw her sing. I thought it was like America the Beautiful or one of those, typical patriotic songs, and maybe that was it. But I didn't see her waiting around. But it was, so many people were encouraging and saying, hey, if you've ever had a flub on Sunday morning, now you know that even on the biggest stage in the world, it still happens.
Man, I feel so bad. Hearts out to that tech person. If you are that tech person or if you know that tech person, contact us.
Yeah,
we would love to talk to you.
That'd be amazing. It was funny. Brandon Kahn at Gateway made the comment of turn the cassette over. I was like, that's cute. That's such an old school like throwback to church techs.
Well, and help me understand in that moment, she can still sing. It's that, what is the backing tracks doing for her? Is it making her louder? Is it helping her not strain her voice? Or is she just straight up lip syncing like Britney Spears?
I mean, she was supposed to sing to the backing tracks, and there were no backing tracks. And she's just standing there waiting for them to come on.
Are the backing tracks just layers of her voice and the music?
Probably.
Oh, so she just had to sing it completely acoustic, just her voice.
Yes. Acapella is how it's referred.
Isn't that the truest test of a singer, though, kind of in that moment?
I think so.
Yeah.
I mean, and honestly, I think our guest would actually have some better insight into this. Maybe he actually knows what he's talking about.
Ooh, we should bring him in then.
Yeah. And I've heard a rumor that he's been a little jealous that other people have gotten ridiculous intros from me. And so I went ahead and I found his true story. Now, I had to do
the inaugural address of our guest?
I had to do a deep dive into, I had to go to the dark web to find the truth about his background and his story, but I got it.
That sounds like a Toby thing to do.
So I'm going to read it in my, like movie trailer voice because our guest is a pretty big deal today.
All right, hit us with the epic trailers voice. Yep.
Okay. Luca Giovanni Romano was born in the summer of 1928. During the Second World War, his family secretly escaped Mussolini and landed in America. Settling in the state they felt to be the most Italian, Michigan, they quickly realized they stood out like a sore thumb and changed their surname to Elliott. Developing EOMPB, early onset male pattern baldness, Luca was teased by the kids at school who called him odd. Attempting to explain the teasing to his mother, his stuttering took effect, and what she heard was the kids at school were calling him Todd, and the name Todd Elliott was born. Finding safety in the AV club in middle school, Todd mistakenly attempted to plug an XLR cable into an incorrect receptacle with 3 holes, but unfortunately, 120 volts. Receiving a shock that would kill a horse, Todd's body converted the energy. Oh, it's so close to getting
break, Toby.
Sorry. Todd's body converted the energy and sent it directly to the top of his head, suddenly producing a luscious full head of hair that became the envy of the friends in his school and the talk of all the girls in his class. When he told his parents of his dreams to work in production, they were shocked. They hadn't escaped an oppressive dictatorship for him to throw his life away on silly knobs and faders. He would become a stockbroker instead. His first day on the trading floor, with all the shouting of the other traders and no PA to hear clearly, when everyone was shouting, buy low, what he heard was FILO, FILO, and the idea for a conference was born. After several career starts and stops to appease his parents, including hosting late-night television and starring on the sitcom Full House, Todd got to fulfill his lifelong dream of doing church production. Now introducing the founder and face of FILO, the creator of Teletubbies and spiritual advisor to the last 3 sitting presidents, Todd Elliott.
Thanks for having me. What an introduction.
That one got out of hand, Blake.
Toby, is this why you didn't do any work yesterday? You said you had a special project.
Yes.
This was it?
This was it.
Oh, man.
Todd, if you hung up the Zoom right now, I wouldn't blame you. I would call you back crying, but I wouldn't blame you.
Well, you know what? The beginning of that story, I was tracking with it pretty good. I mean, my family's not from Italy, but did have some immigrants come over and then, massive name change to Elliott. So I'm in. Yeah.
Did you stumble upon that, Toby?
100%.
A blind squirrel finds a nut every now and then.
That's right.
Yeah. So just maybe a little piece of trivia. My great-grandfather came from Lebanon through Mexico City, actually, and set up a dry cleaning business. He married and had my grandfather was born. Then he left. The great-grandfather left and started a new family somewhere else. And so when
making franchise families here.
Right. When my grandfather turned 18, he changed his name to Alfred Elliott. Before that, his name was George Harfouche.
Ooh, Harfouche. So, you could have been Todd Harfouche.
That's right. Yeah. I think I dodged a bullet there.
Did we just blow Todd's cover? Like, we've now given all of his backstory.
Yep. The CIA is like, cut the feed.
ICE agents are storming Willow Creek right now to get Todd.
Yeah.
Run, Todd, run. Okay. Well, Todd gave us a lot of truth there, but he's going to give us a lie. Now, we are doing a different spin on our 5 Truths and a Lie, our weekly game where the guest tries to fool us with a lie, and we get to learn a little about him. Todd is a seasoned Church Gear podcast guest.
Yeah, and we'll get to that.
So now he's doing 5 Truths and a Lie about FILO Conference 2025.
Okay.
Which, Todd, did you get the idea for FILO on the stock trading floor?
No, that part of the story was very far from the truth.
Okay. I hope in 3 years from now, people are repeating this because they forgot what parts were true or not.
Excellent.
Number 1, and this is for FILO, the conference. If you're listening to this, I'd be shocked if you didn't know, but I also want you to be invited into the conversation here. This is a conference that happens every May for church technical production people, and this is 5 truths about the conference this year, and one of them is a lie. Number 1, there will be 20 full and part-time staff on the FILO team. That's a lot of people.
That is a lot of people.
Number 2, it's translated into 5 languages. That's 5 more than I speak. Number 3, Church Gear will be the first faces you see when you come to the FILO conference in person until Todd heard his introduction from Toby. Number 4, there's 32 breakout classes, one for every NFL team. Number 5, Chelsea and Blake are teaching a class about how to get along with your boss. I'm reading this live.
Oh, that's good.
Actually, that's a typo. It should be they should be teaching a class. Yeah, that's still true. That could be true.
Number 6, over 300 volunteers to make FILO conference happen. That's a lot of volunteers.
That is a lot of volunteers.
Do you think it's that many? There's like 3 good lies in here.
Yeah.
I've lost track. I think this is number 7. It takes 12 Resi encoders to stream the FILO main sessions and all the breakouts. I really thought there were. All right, Toby, I'm going to just be open kimono with you because I want us.
Please shut your kimono.
I want us to beat Todd, but not go against each other. I really thought it was the 5 languages, but I think it's more than that. But I also know that there can't be 300 volunteers. That's too many.
I'm going to go with the languages. You go with the volunteers. That way we'll have a double chance of beating Todd.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Toby's locking in languages. I'm locking in volunteers. Todd, what is the lie?
The lie is 20 full and part-time staff on the FILO team.
They got us.
The truth is there's 1 full-time and 4 part-time people on the FILO team. The rest are volunteers.
I knew that. And I was like, well, that's not true. But maybe he's talking about like the week of FILO. There's like 20 people.
That's what I was also thinking.
Yeah. He's a sneaky one, this Luca.
You know what FILO stands for? Freaking inventing lies. Oh, my.
That's phylum, actually.
Well,
oh, my.
The my was implied. Okay, so there are 300 volunteers?
Yeah.
What do they all do, Todd?
So we've got the production crew in the main room. We have hospitality people, so feeding all the people, running food all over the place. Breakout setup, breakout techs, people doing streaming stuff, greeters, such as yourselves. It's packing gift bags, and there are 300 people.
Man.
Yeah, it's huge.
I wonder if Santa is like mad that there's cooler, elves running around. Like that's a lot of like FILO elves making everything happen behind the scenes.
Yeah. And it is true that Church Gear is going to be helping greet at the door this year. I mean, that was what Todd has said so far, but he did give the stipulation. I've seen Church Gear's behavior before, so it's a strong.
We are on probation.
Yes.
We are on probation until.
Yeah, you have to stay closed kimono. That's number 1.
Have y'all not heard that? Our operations guy Frank taught me that. That means like your open kimono is a phrase.
Frank lived in Japan for several years, so
it's probably legit.
Have you ever been to Japan? Do you speak a word of Japanese,
Toby,
Blake?
do you think I'm kimono enough, or do you think I'm cultured enough to go to Japan? Todd, is Japan one of the 5 languages that it is translated?
I don't believe so. No,
is what it's called.
Yeah, no, not Japanese. I believe, I don't know this for a certainty, but it might be Spanish, Portuguese, French, Chinese, Mandarin, I guess. I don't know what the 5th language is.
Deutsch?
Russian, perhaps?
I think the 5th language is idiot, and they do that one just for me so I can participate.
This knob go round.
Yeah, could be senior pastor. It'd be a miracle if we could get that. Translate all the technical stuff into
so good.
pastor speak.
And is it like an AI tool that's doing like auto translating?
Correct. Yeah, we have a partner, Interprenet, they're called, and they're doing AI both live voice translation. So like an AI voice is translating live, and then they have closed captioning also.
Okay, and it works really well. You guys did it last year, right?
Yeah, we did. I think. When you're in a live situation, closed captioning and live interpretation are kind of a toss-up, whether it's a human being doing all that work or AI. I mean, it's 80 to 90% accurate. So I feel like, it does a good job for what we're using it for. So
80 to 90% accurate is way higher than Blake's, mouth speak.
That's true. I was also going to say we should count the AI as part of their volunteer teams now. So they've actually got 303 volunteers.
Yeah.
Right.
So, Todd, I think you are attempting to break records with the Church Gear podcast. Has he been on 47 million times at this point? How many episodes have we done, Blake?
Well, like you said, I'm less than 80% accurate.
That's
but
true.
When I looked it up, it looks like Todd is now joining a group of only one other guest to have this many appearances of the 4 Pete Club. You know how SNL has it's like the 5 Pete or something where they get the jacket.
Right.
So
Okay.
Todd is now in the 4 Peters Club.
Okay. And he's with Jeff Sandstrom, right?
You guessed
Nice.
it. That's it.
The Mount Rushmore.
Good company.
Yeah. You're one away from the jacket, Todd.
Okay.
Yeah.
What kind of jacket?
That's
Like a tech jacket?
yes. We need tech
church gear.
jackets, Blake.
Listen,
You don't
give
have
me
any
the
budget, but give me these
I was
jackets.
just Todd. I didn't know how real I should be on this podcast. I was going to joke, knowing Church Gear, it's a high five because I'm going to go. Let's
Yeah,
print
yeah.
jackets.
Yeah. Is it a sport coat or is it like a varsity jacket? What kind of jacket are we talking?
What's more casual?
I like bomber jackets personally.
Ooh, a bomber jacket? Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe it could be a patch, and then we could get that put on the jacket.
There we go.
That actually would
Yeah.
work.
Buy your own jacket.
Oh my
We provide
gosh,
the
Toby.
patch, the Tech Yeah patch. So, Todd, for newer listeners that aren't familiar with FILO, give us a bit of background rundown on what is FILO.
Yeah, FILO. FILO's really stands for first in, last out, I guess, to start there, which is really how a lot of people who do production in the local church feel. I'm always the first one there, turn the lights on, and oh, look at that, I'm the last one to leave, turning the lights off. And it really was born out of my own journey as a tech person and the things that I needed, which was like I would love to learn what other people are doing so I don't have to reinvent the wheel. I would love to feel like I'm part of something and a group of people that get me. And just to be reminded that what I do actually matters. And so for me, starting FILO was all about how can we provide those for, everybody who's doing this job, whether they're a staff or volunteer. And I think for me, it's been a journey starting maybe in the year 2000, when I started gathering, just setting up gatherings for church tech people, when I worked at a church in Michigan, all the way through to today. Just something I feel like God has called me to be about. And so just trying to create an environment for people to experience all those different things, skill development, community, and inspiration. And for us, the whole goal is, gear is important. Without it, we wouldn't have anything to do. But it's also not necessarily the most important. And so for me, the goal is really how can we create more effective humans, which makes, if you're more effective, everything around you is more effective, including your role at the local church as a tech person. So, and then the hopes that, the church becomes more effective as a result. So that's what FILO is about.
Blake, I'm imagining, you show me our podcast numbers sometimes and, it'll be like peaks and valleys as, downloads go, but then there'll be just this crazy peak off the chart. So thinking about your year, what kind of peak does FILO create in your year every time we go?
I'll put it like this. FILO happens at my birthday every year. And I am happy to be gone out of town on my birthday at FILO. Like I get to go to FILO for my birthday.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a pretty high peak. And I hope a lot of people get to feel that same community, because what Todd just said there, like really touched my soul when he said, like, let people feel like they're not alone and actually know what each other are doing. Because Todd, the thing that shocked me when we did the pay series in 2023, one of the biggest motifs of people's feedback was, I just want the pastor to know what I'm doing. Like they had a chance to give us an answer about pay, the most personal thing in a person's life in relation to their job. And instead, a lot of them said, I just wish somebody knew what I did at church.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's so interesting to me. I was in a scenario with a senior pastor type person, and he was thanking me for something I did production wise. And I'm just like, you don't even, I mean, I appreciate that you're saying it, but the way you're saying it, you don't really know what I just did. You don't fully understand. And part of it is, we're wired up a certain way to get all that stuff done. That's why we're there. The senior pastor's wired differently to get other things done. I don't want his job or her job. And so, yeah, I think it's that really interesting dynamic of to be known, like just not even for what I'm doing, but just for who I am and maybe the struggles I go through. And yeah, it's definitely so for Philo, because we see, we understand, it's easier to provide honor to those people in our community. It's like we see what you're doing, we understand what it is. And I think, just this is an aside, I feel like for me personally, the next big challenge is how do we change the culture at churches that everybody sees everybody. And it's not just, the senior pastor doesn't really understand what I do. And so I never get any positive feedback, or the feedback I do get is super generic and like feels like an obligation. So to change that, I want to try to do that.
That just gave me a great video idea, Toby, that we should talk about off mic, that we should do with Todd.
Great. Done. So speaking of, being known for what you do, Blake, I want to talk about the OC. Do you know what the OC is?
Oh, is that beach show?
Yeah. Todd, you ever watch the OC?
Never.
Yeah.
No.
Neither have I. But in this instance, OC is referring to the oh crap moments. Todd, you watched the inauguration?
I did, actually. Yes.
And
I
can
watched
you
this whole thing play out?
Yeah. Tell us about this Carrie Underwood oh crap moment.
Yeah. So she was escorted out, by a military person, and big announcement. Please welcome Carrie Underwood to sing "America the Beautiful" or whatever she's saying. And she got out there, very cramped space, just like everybody's standing on top of everybody, and long pause. Her trying to stay positive, with a smile on her face. Some music played, but like in the middle of something, and then stopped. And then actually afterwards, I saw this, a stage manager, dressed military outfit, comes up right in front of Carrie and mouths the words, "Just sing it." And she mouths them back, "Just sing it." And so then she said, "Hey, if you know the words, join in with me," and had everybody sing with her. And I actually felt like it was a beautiful human moment in the whole the whole craziness of the inauguration. It was like the one real moment in my mind. But nobody ever wants that to happen, but I loved it. So
yeah. Okay, so I did see her singing it and then everybody singing along. I just missed the whole preamble when all this stuff happened. I just read about it online. Todd, do you remember some specific oh crap moments in your history? And what encouragement can you give to the community knowing that they happen?
Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned Brandon Kahn saying, just flip the tape over, because that's the first thing I thought of when that was happening. I hated backing tracks because too much was dependent on me, to push the button at the right time, or, back in those days, it was a cassette tape. So, take the tape out and kind of manually advance the tape to eliminate as much dead air as possible, and then hope you didn't overshoot the intro. And so the time I was thinking of, it was the year 1990. And
Blake,
it was
you weren't
Christmas
even born
time. Yeah, it was Christmas time, and we had the Christmas service. The closing song was some Sandy Patty song on one of these accompaniment tracks.
Wait a minute. This person's name is Sandy Patty.
She was one of the most famous Christian music artists of all time.
Fascinating. Yeah. All right, continue.
She's got a great voice. Anyway, so I put the tape in, I get all the tape all ready and I put it in, and it's time to go. And I'm just like, as I'm hitting play, I'm just praying, "Dear God, make this work." That was my prayer every time. And so the thing starts, and I had it on the wrong side of the cassette. So that meant that Sandy Patty was singing. It's like a demo of the whole thing. So Sandy is singing, and the person on stage is singing, and I'm trying to work the faders to like minimize Sandy Patty somehow. And anyway, afterwards, I wanted to crawl into a hole, and I went up to the vocalist immediately and said, "I am so sorry. I can't explain why that happened." And she said, "Can I tell you something? I was losing my voice, and I prayed to God, help me through this last song." And Sandy Patty started singing. She's like, "My prayers have been answered."
Amazing.
Anyway, so that was the first thing I thought of with this question. So
I love this. Blake, to give you some context, because you weren't even born yet, because my dad performed these kind of special music, is what we called them, all the time, like every Sunday. And you would buy a single song on cassette. And Todd, I feel like they were called performance tracks, and tracks with an X. And,
correct, yes.
On one side, it would be the artist performing the song. And on the other side, it would be just the song with no vocals. So you could rehearse it and listen to it on one side, and then you flip the tape over and then you perform it. And, unfortunately, the ability to remove vocals from music was not really available yet at that point.
No. Anyway, yeah. So one of my least favorite moments and favorite moments, that it was like my worst nightmare and her answer to prayer. So,
so how do we as production people handle those moments when something really obvious happens, whether it was our fault or one of our teams? As a leader, how do we address those moments?
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's a great question. I think when something's going wrong, I think my first reaction is to not panic. I think it's real easy to get wrapped up in the moment and start causing other problems by panicking. And so the thing I've learned over the years, just stay calm, especially if you're leading a team. Like, the team already knows bad things are happening. And so to see somebody else, their leader, freaking out about it isn't really helping us continue to get stuff done. And so, yeah, just remaining calm and keeping, hopefully keeping everybody else calm while we figure out what the solution is. I think it can be real easy to just get into somebody's business trying to solve the problem and just making things worse. Just a quick example. I had was working a service. I was the TD for it, and somebody was running sound, and we had a string quartet on stage. So this was like a new thing for us. This is back also in the 90s. And so the song starts and no string quartets in the mix. And so I just sort of leaned over to the audio guy, like, "String quartet." And he's like, oh gosh, and unmutes the channels, and okay, now we're going and everything's great. And then I'm like, "Lead vocal," like he had forgotten to turn that mic on too. And years later, he recounted the story to a group of people that I was in, and I did not know that was the story he was going to tell. But the thing that he said was, "I just appreciated so much not being yelled at or berated or just like lit into for missing those things." We had conversations afterwards, but that were calm and polite and whatever. But in the moment, just not causing people to get afraid of making another mistake.
Yeah.
And so I would say in all my years of doing production, it feels like there's kind of two ways of leading a team. One is, hey, let's do our very best, and then we'll talk about how we can improve that, or let's not screw up. And afterwards, we'll talk about all the ways you did screw up. So I think I don't know anybody that does their best work out of fear. And so for me, I'm a big fan of, just keeping it calm. I'm also, I think I believe this, what I'm about to say. I'm also a fan of making mistakes. Like, I think if we're not making mistakes, we're not developing, we're not trying new things, especially leading volunteer teams. Like, if you're not giving people, you can't give people chances if you're not comfortable with failure on some level.
Yeah.
And so for me, I'm all about it. I'm also not about second time mistakes, like doing the same mistake again. So for me, every mistake is a learning opportunity on how can we improve the process, or what could we have done differently, or, just all the different things we can learn from something not going well. I think it's real easy for us to see any live show on TV or Super Bowl or all these concerts, and everything's going perfectly, to assume that, it always goes that way. And really, for me, especially in the local church, working with volunteers, excellence is it's the long game. It's not about this weekend. It's about a year from now's weekend. And what are we doing now to help make next year more excellent? That we're improving gradually. It's not like we're perfect every week, but we're perfecting our process and the way we handle things. And, that we're not just focusing on one mistake, but like, how can this one mistake help us make sure it doesn't happen again and improve us so that next week we're a little better. And to me, that's really how I define excellence, better today than yesterday. And so every one of us can be excellent wherever we are, however big our church is, however big your production budget is, however much gear you have. We can always be better today than we were yesterday. That's all within our own power.
Man, Todd, you have a couple good quotes there saying that nobody probably does their best work out of fear. That's a really good one. Yeah. I also think that this is such a good reminder because remember Todd's TED takeaway, Todd's tech takeaway a couple episodes back was be afraid enough or be brave enough to suck at something.
Yeah.
And that's been very helpful to me because I like literally
you're the bravest person I know, Blake.
Well, you say that. You say
Burn.
that. I have used that in moments where I've been scared to try something new here recently that I've been like, screw it. Todd said to do it. I'm going to go for it. So I really like that, Todd, like that perspective that if you're trying to be perfect, you're actually being limited because you're not trying anything new. That's really good.
Yeah. Todd, I want to talk a little bit about your time at Willow. You guys were doing things that no other church in the world perhaps were doing,
like streaking through the hallways, setting fires to veterinarian stadiums,
open kimonos.
I said streaking, Toby.
I'm curious, like
I'm just seeing that kimono flapping, behind you as you're running through the lobby.
What a scary sight, Blake, in anybody's head.
That's what anybody says when they see us, Toby.
Yeah. So Todd, I'm curious about, just the planning process. Like, how many just brilliant creative minds would get together in the room and think like, hey, what if we did this? What if we tried this? Let's do this on Sunday morning. Like, how was that planning process? Was, your production team part of that planning process, or was that kind of handed down to you guys and said, okay, here's the vision, figure out how to get it done?
Yeah, I would say there were definitely many iterations of how that worked. But I would say in most of my time at Willow Creek, there was definitely a sense of somebody else is coming up with the ideas. I can imagine a lot of production people feel this way. Like, don't put me in a planning meeting or a brainstorming meeting. Number one, I got a lot to do, and number two, this freaks me out. Like, all these ideas and the possibility of having to pull these off. Like, it's just better if I'm not in the room. And I can say for me, I've been kicked out a lot of those meetings. You're just like, you're not being helpful, so please leave. But I think for me also, it was a journey of just learning to let the ideas evolve over time and not freak out too soon. And so over time at Willow, it was definitely a process of learning, like, okay, let the creative people come up with the ideas, let them present the ideas. Let's withhold our opinions about that idea, and let's do some research. Like, let's take these ideas and see, what does it cost, or how could we do that, or let's flesh this out a little bit. And really in that process of fleshing things out was really helpful for us to take the idea and make it doable. So one of the things that I say a lot is that most creative ideas come with like a technical plan to accomplish it. So, hey, we want to do this thing with a spinning stage and projection on the floor and all this, that the idea is wrapped in something production related. And this is typically a group that doesn't have all the, they don't know exactly what they're talking about. They're just, it seems like it would be a cool idea. And so a lot of times then I felt like my job and my team's job was to, okay, we'll do some research on all this, but let's peel away all these technical ideas that are wrapped around your idea. And let's get to the core of what you're trying to accomplish. Because there might be, if we're doing your idea, it's going to cost $1 million. If we get to the core of your idea, we might have the resources to get that done. And I feel like, a lot of times technical people they're stereotyped to saying no a lot. No, it can't do that. No, it can't be done. And I get it because, we're the ones kind of left holding the idea, trying to figure out how to get it done. But I think there's a lot of creativity in that group of people that they haven't learned how to kind of hold their no back. And so for us, it was like, we're going to show up with all our creativity. Hey, I know you said you wanted to do it this way, but what about this? Or what about that? And so the process of Willow Creek for those big Christmas services was months long, mostly because, if you're going to build a set or something for Christmas, I don't know if you've seen the stage at Willow Creek, but it's 100 feet wide and 50 feet tall. Like, that's a big set to build. And so it takes a long time. And so we would start early in October, maybe in earnest in October. Like, we would have kind of sussed everything out, and this is the direction we're going. But definitely it became a collaboration of the creative idea people, the people that they hold the kind of the kernel of what the idea is, and the production team coming around them to say, what's the best way for us with our resources to accomplish this idea. And, I would say the thing about church production and big events and creativity is that you're always trying to do something new, something you haven't done before. Yeah, we're telling the Christmas story again, but we're telling it in a different way. And so we don't totally know how long it's going to take. We don't totally know how much it's going to cost. And so every year you're sort of reinventing the wheel. And so sometimes you go down a long road, and then you end up having to say, let's abandon this because it's not working. I would say actually my last Christmas at Willow Creek, we had all sort of projection mapping and spinning stages and all this stuff. And we ended up cutting a bunch of that stuff that we spent all this time on, because once you're in there, it wasn't working. And so,
we call that a full Prestonwood, Todd.
Yeah. That we also have to be really open-handed with what's going to make the idea work for our congregation. And just because we can spin, a big stage around, if it's not working, we shouldn't do it, even though we spent a lot of money and effort to make it happen. So,
do you have any of those memories of like specific asks or ideas from the creative team in which you were like, oh crap, how are we going to pull that one off?
Yeah, I mean, there was a couple years in there where we did a thing called Imagine Christmas, and it was we were flying people in. We were, from the catwalks and doing all sorts of crazy stuff. We had a drama that happened back when we were doing dramas. We had like a cloud that floated down from the ceiling, and there were two angels on the cloud, and that's where the dialogue took place. And we had all kinds of crazy ideas that when they first came to us, like, we can't do that. And part of it is, as a tech person, I usually am relying on the budget constraints to give me an out. on that particular Christmas, somebody opened up some sort of floodgate, and there was enough money to actually do the ideas. And so, yeah, we went when the ideas seemed crazy at first. We ended up doing a lot of them that particular year. Whether we should have or not, that's like another question. But
yeah. I always tell Toby, any idea for enough time and money, I can make anything happen with enough time and money.
Right. Yeah.
You to be well-mannered and well-spoken.
Time and money, 10 years with Brian Deshawn. We'll get there.
Yeah. You to start wearing underwear?
Enough money, Toby. So $5 million a year. We'll get there.
You'll wear underwear for $5 million a year.
Yeah, whatever.
I feel like the people of Earth will gather funds to get that.
Look, Toby, if you can get me in a house in Nolensville, I'll do almost anything. That's my number in life. You get me in a house in Nolensville, I'll do it.
Good. You didn't say how big or outfitted it needs to be.
My wife has to be cool with it. So.
Yeah. Oh, Todd, speaking of...
Let's bring it home, Toby. Let's bring it home.
Speaking of Blake's wife's dreams of sending him out of town to FILO this year. How'd you like that transition, Blake?
That was very good.
Talk to us about, more specifically about FILO this year. When and where is it happening? And what are some of the, some of the things you're really excited about this year? Maybe new stuff.
Yeah, so it's happening at Willow Creek Church in South Barrington, Illinois, where we've held it since 2018 with a little break there in 2020. We've got 3 great main session speakers. So Todd Henry, who's an author about working with teams and that sort of thing. He used to be a producer, creative director at Crossroads Church in Cincinnati. It's been a long time, but really excited about having him as a speaker. Megan Marshman, who we've had a couple times in the past. She's a teaching pastor at Willow Creek. She just, in my book, she's the best. And so we asked her to come last year. I think in 2022, as soon as she was done speaking, I asked her, will you come back next year? And she couldn't. So she's back now this year. And then Brian Taylor, who's a worship leader, has led in a lot of churches, leading the worship department. And so he's coming to teach, and I'm excited about having him there.
Yeah.
Did I already say May 6th and 7th are the dates? As you heard from 5 Truths and a Lie, there will be 32 breakout classes taught by people who are doing production in the local church. So audio, video, lighting, leadership, sort of 101 level stuff and advanced breakouts. So 8 different breakout tracks. I guess maybe a pertinent bit of information, February 11th, which maybe this is happening before then, is the deadline for the price changing. So February 11th is the last day you can get the tickets at the current price. What am I excited about? Well, I think the fact that it's Blake's birthday, that's kind of exciting.
That's how we kick off FILO, May 6th, man.
But I don't know. I love so much the gathering of tech people together and seeing old friends and new friends. And as kind of the mascot of FILO, I guess, I hear a lot of great stories from people just about how FILO has changed, kind of how their team operates or how they operate as individuals in their local church. And I think back for me, maybe 2006. So, oh my gosh, almost 20 years ago, sort of having this moment with God saying, like, I'm learning a lot about how to do this better. If I could figure out a way to share what I'm learning and it can help other people, then, let's figure that out. And so, it just feels like FILO is a fulfillment of that in so many ways that we have a lot of people have learned a lot about how to do production in the local church. And, the fact that we can share it with other people, at FILO, that's what I'm excited about.
Yeah. Anything like big dreams for the future? If anything could happen, like maybe, you got to move it to United Center or Beyonce performs, or maybe an AI Jesus will do the main session talk.
This is a disclosure that Church Gear does not approve of AI Jesus, and that is not a real savior. That is a joke of Toby and does not represent the views of Church Gear.
Oh, that's so good. You know what? I've been kind of I think in a generic, or not generic, but in a general way, the goal is like, how can we affect the lives of the most number of technical people? And so, yeah, United Center, I don't know that I can see that, but what it looks like, how we do it, I think, I'm not sure, but I do know that I get a lot of people asking, "Hey, when are you coming to Brazil? When are you coming to India?" Just all these different places, and so the fact that church tech people need what FILO has to offer, I guess the vision is how do we maximize that? How do we reach the most number of people, and how do we keep it? FILO as a resource for people for as long as possible.
Step one, get yourself and hopefully your team or a person on your team to FILO. Step two, make friends with other people at FILO. That's all you got to do. If you're hearing this and you're like, will this be good for me? Will this be fun? The community piece, and Toby, you talk about it all the time. Make friends with other tech leaders to get to share notes, to get to have real community throughout the year.
Oh, man.
This is the top chance of your year. If you're scared to just randomly message someone, that's okay. Come here. You will bump into every single person you could be friends with.
Yeah, and bring Blake some white cheddar popcorn for his birthday.
And I will then carry you around to meet other people.
Yeah.
Yes, we can eat white cheddar popcorn. We will fart the whole way.
Wow.
Making
a lot,
making
Blake.
farts and friends.
Yeah.
Farts and friends with Blake Hodges. Here we go.
So Blake, we're not in Nolansville, but can you bring it home for us to a little tech takeaway?
You know what? We're all in a temporary home here, Toby. Even as we
This
wait,
earth is not our home.
even as
I
we
get
wait
it,
to get to
yes.
heaven. So in my temporary home here, Todd, if you could give us another tech takeaway, no pressure since your literal last
And did
one.
you have to bring up your notes to transition to a tech takeaway?
Toby, I'm an organized person.
Wow.
I got him. You noticed earlier, we had to do a clap because I wasn't sure this new mechanism if I had something going. Todd, no pressure since your last tech takeaway has literally been one of the things I have lived by over the past year. That's a lot of pressure, actually. What would you tell to a room full of production people, man, to encourage them or to give them a tip, whatever that might be? What does the FILO mascot himself have for a tech takeaway this year?
I think the just as we were talking about mistakes and how to handle them, I think for me that's really the takeaway. That number one, mistakes will happen. Number two is how are you going to respond to those mistakes? And so for me, what are you going to learn from it, and how can we get better as a result of that? I guess maybe third with the mistakes that we didn't really talk about is communicate to your leaders about the mistake. Like, don't just let it go by, but say, hey, we know that something happened. This is what we're going to do about it. This is why we think it happened. Just like in language people can understand. But I think it's really important to communicate with your leaders so that they know that you're aware. I think so often mistakes go by and nobody says anything, but everybody's got, in the back of their mind, when is this going to happen again? And a lot of that could be avoided by just going to your leaders and saying, yes, we know there was a mistake and this is why it happened. And this is how we hope to not have it happen again.
Todd, I do have a follow-up question. I'd be curious for both of y'all on this. When Dan Quinn, the coach of the Lions, when they lost and he was doing his press conference, he didn't throw any player under the bus. All he said was how much work they had given and how much he loved his team. And then he repeated multiple times, I failed them. He took the whole responsibility of the loss on himself, which I thought was a real leadership move there rather than to call out any particular players. But how does that play interpersonally with your pastor? If you're doing this communication, do you say, Johnny, the volunteer, made this mistake. I've worked with Johnny. We're going to fix it. Like how specific do you get in those moments?
Yeah. I mean, I think it can be, so part of it is if you have a team of volunteers, the pastor can see who's behind the soundboard if there's a mistake happening. And so there's part of it that there needs to be some upfront conversations about if we're going to be a volunteer-driven ministry, mistakes will happen. That's part of, it's in the water already. And so there's part of it that it's not, we're not shaming anybody, but we're saying, if you have somebody new that you think bad things might happen this service, to even go to the pastor, the worship pastor, to say, I really believe in this person. We're giving him a chance to, learn and grow. I just want you to know that, we're taking a calculated risk, or we believe in him, but there's a chance something might happen. Even that is such a great expectation set up for your leadership. And I think I'm thinking of a really horrible mistake that happened right when I first started at Willow Creek, and trying to come up with not like what story are we going to tell the senior pastor about how this happened, but exactly what happened and what could have prevented it. And so it was not necessarily a volunteer issue. It was for us, it was a process issue that, like, we need to power lock wireless mics always. And it was not a habit we were in at the time. And so, yeah, we were doing it sometimes, but okay, the stage manager didn't do it. And so as a result, bad things happened. But we, talk about it in terms of a process instead of, just a single volunteer that made a huge mistake.
I like that. Yep. Toby, whenever Brian comes to talk to you about things at Church Gear, does he say we're taking a calculated risk on Blake?
He usually says we're taking calculated risk on you, Toby.
Oh. Toby is self-reporting a burn. That's very big of you. Todd, if you'd like to self-report any plugs here, is there any final things you'd like to point people towards specifically? If they heard this episode and they're like, I want to hang out with these people and learn some more about FILO, where should they go? FILO.org is the place. That's where all of our stuff lives. You can follow us at FILO Community on Instagram and Facebook. We're just trying to create a place for people to experience community. And one of my favorite things about our Instagram feed is Sunday Share, just everybody posting photos and comments about their own service. And it's just a way to kind of normalize what we're doing and share ideas. And it's a great way to feel like you're a part of the community. But I think number one, if you can make it, come May 6th and 7th to FILO in Chicago.
Yep, we'll be there.
It'll be a great time. I'd also like to plug, I think I might have said Dan Quinn. I meant Dan Campbell for the Lions. That's the coach of the Lions.
I know.
That was.
It's almost like you know nothing about football, Blake.
It's like, oh my gosh, I was brave enough to suck at something there. Got the wrong name. Okay, well, we'll be there. We've been there 4 years. This will be our 4th year.
Yep.
We can't say that about any other conference.
No, and there's some other great conferences out there. We love them, but FILO is kind of our, where we plant our flag every year.
That's our yearly party.
Yeah.
All right. We'll see.
Can't wait.
We'll see you pretty soon, Todd.
All right.
Thanks for hanging out with us. We hope to see you back next week for more absurd stories, tech takeaways, and overall buffoonery here at the Church Gear Studios.
Blake, we're going to be helping at the front door at FILO, and we'll see what kind of nonsense we get into. We have to keep it at a FILO approved level.
How many restraining orders are you and I going to get combined?
I'm not sure that you're able to count that high.
Okay.
But if other people want to get into the nonsense with us at FILO, what's their first step? What should they do?
They should share this episode with the friend they want to take with them to FILO, because FILO is more fun with friends.
Yeah.
Or send this to your senior. Should they send this to their senior pastor?
Sure.
Send it to your senior pastor and be like, hey, if you want me to have better communication, if you want me to have a healthy volunteer team, I need to go to this conference.
Yeah, because senior pastor's approving the budget for this person to go to this conference. So absolutely.
Yeah, if he says, what are you going to get out of this? Maybe literally send him this episode.
Yeah. And just remember, FILO and sell high.